good banning. So, maybe he shows us a Corki, maybe he shows us Tristana, but I'm kind of hoping to see something new from Faker today. I wouldn't advise it going into playoffs if he has something sneaky, but Smolder's kind of out there. At least everybody knows about the pick at the moment.
Okay, first ban on blue, pretty interesting. Also the Yone, going to take that away from closer, so Faker not playing that here.
Kalista taken away from Gumacaria to weaken some of the flexibility in that lane we've seen from this team basically since this roster was formed. Vi is kind of a must ban against BNK, so taking away two strong jungle picks, a pick you don't plan on playing, but is one of Closer's best, strong on this patch. Final ban would probably be Aurora in this case, but since it is globally banned, it will be the Nidalee to come through instead, and that's just going to leave Ashe. Definitely one of the strongest bottom lanes to get an Ashe first pick, I would say, in the LCK.
Yeah. Renekton immediately the follow-up here for clear, as well as Zyra. So you already have really strong top lane and an extremely fast clearing jungle with this duo.
And the Nidalee's taken away. Sejuani does feel like pretty viable in this situation just because it pairs well with the Ashe, but isn't going to be as strong into the Zyra. Will not be able to match the clear, will not be able to make the same impact in the early game. Instead, it will be Viego to come through here. It does make you wonder if Faker just locks up the Azir, and there was never really any doubt.
True.
As I think some people might be critical of, again, the reliance on the Azir, but if you want to show as little as possible before playoffs, this is just a strong set of champions. No secrets here.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Viego into Zyra personally. I feel like if you fall behind it, you get behind so far in tempo. But it is owner on the Viego, so perhaps he can get a bit more work done than some of the other junglers have been doing into the Zyra. But looking for Raptor to have a lot of presence in this early game.
That is definitely going to be the key. As we take a look at some of the picks here, I think support is where you're probably focused, as BNK taking away the Braum. Ashe lane is quite strong. Renekton doesn't have too many big matchups that he's worried about. Like Gnar could be one that Zayas picks up here. The Kennen is viable. GP is the one that we see into Renekton sometimes. It's much easier to just target support here as BNK because you haven't shown any part of your bottom lane just yet. We'll see if it's just going to be like a Leona ban here if they want to play MF. I mean, Leona's are taken away by T1, so I guess it will be the Gnar.
Yeah, I think that's a good shot. If you're going to ban one thing into this Renekton for Zeus, just take the Gnar away. It could have tried to target a little bit more towards the bottom lane, but also it is T1's bottom lane. They always play all sorts of weird stuff, so you don't even know if it's, Guma playing this, Keria playing this. It's like 99% it is Guma that is going to play it in this current meta, but it's actually Alistar to be taken down. So Rel stocks immediately spike up.
Yeah, with Leona gone too, I feel like this might be an error. They could just go Rel here first and then grab Misfortune, it feels like, unless there's a trap pick they're worried about. That seems like a pretty easy rotation for this draft for BNK.
There's also Rakan to consider. Duro, a very big Rakan player, and it has not been denied from him. So just going to lock in the Misfortune and just wait.
Yeah. Just want to have the support counter pick. This means that Keria should block the Rel, unless... Yeah. No, it's the orange pick is a consideration for top lane in this.
It's Senna Ornn bot, Ashe mid, Azir top.
What about Ashe top into Renekton?
No.
Slow him down.
Ashe
Keep that croc
jungle,
away.
Viego top. Azir 80k. Wait.
Yeah, it's GP, I think, is probably a better option here. This comp has insane scaling. It feels like we've gone back to the Genji days. If you're okay, gonna be the Kennen instead. But if you go back to the GP Azir drafting, old school Genji drafts, we used to see a lot of that back in 2021, 2022. Duro looking for the Nautilus response here since the Rel was taken away. I feel like the better way to have played this one out for B&K's bottom lane would have just been to grab the Rel, because they can't take the misfortune away from you, and then have that really strong synergy there that already works well with the Zyra. Instead, they ended up with Nautilus into Rel, which is a little bit... I mean, it's okay, but it's a little bit weak, I feel. Pretty strong into dive if the Viego does have that opportunity down there on the bottom side. You have a lot of staking power in the roots, etc. Very difficult to kill under turret when there's a Nautilus there. Otherwise, the draft here for B&K feels pretty good. You have really nice setup, single target CC. You have some combo setup with the Zyra for the bullet time. It's not as strong as the Rel engage, but it can be quite nice. On the side of T1, you've got insane team fighting power. You have both of your solo laners can set up team fights and engages. You have the Rel to set it up, and you have Ashe arrows to get single target picks, and then you have the follow-up CC. I have to lean pretty heavily towards T1's draft here, but it is going to, again, be about that execution, because this is a draft that needs to work well together. If people are getting isolated, people are getting caught, Viego's falling behind the Zyra, it can fall apart relatively easily.
Yeah, we see a lot of this recently with, you know, Rel, Kennen, Ashe, Viego, just a big pick comp, resets. This isn't anything really new on the side of T1, but it is very comprehensive. The Azir kind of filling in the gaps, add some nice scaling as well. Whereas on the side of B&K, just everybody picked their own champ as well. No swaps needed in this draft for them. But certainly a whole boatload of damage. We'll see how it goes as we hop into the Rift for game number 1. Here we go, game 1 as T1 have grouped in the top lane. All 5 members here to come. And Closer's like, well, I'm gonna have to take Valkyrie first. And that he will. Duro able to proc his Aftershock, I believe, so he gets away.
He's fine. Very nice to get the Valkyrie out of Closer early. Ashe level 1, incredibly strong. Ashe and Braum, even stronger. Why that was banned away. Clear will avoid the slow. And also slice and dice at level 1. So 2 awkward ability takes here for B&K as a result of that level 1 play. Pretty successful here for T1. Clear is not going to be, it's not going to be the end of the world for either of these solo laners to have their mobility options at level 1, but it does hurt their lane pressure.
Closer says, no, I'm just going to use it to harass. Valkyrie into range. Get a couple of autos off. But yeah, he would like to have Gatling gun. Instead, he will not. Also -1. Unlucky. We do see
PTA Kennen.
Yeah.
When it's a low-stakes game and Zeus is on Kennen, sometimes he does not do the ability power items.
I mean, especially into the Renekton. Renekton, very difficult to push out a lane, but if you want to try your hardest, that is one way to try to do so. Nice buffer from Duro just to say, I do not want to fight you early on. And just get away from that one. I mentioned it in the draft. I want to see high tempo from Raptor on his clear, and I want to see him get active in the side lanes early.
Yep, looks like that's what he's planning on doing. We'll be spotted by this hawk shot from Guma. And Zeus knows that Owner needs to come over here and cross and make sure that Kennen can continue to use the range advantage he has with that PTA as well. Raptor's pushed away from his jungle. And Clear does have level 2, but not really able to come over here and assist, so looks like it is going to just be a red buff stolen away. Raptor will at least get his Krugs. Zeus really putting the pressure on with that PTA and the range advantage. And that means Owner will get that extra buff and then be able to go down and take his own red.
And now Owner even going to show up in mid, but Faker taking it out on his old understudy. Remember, Closer used to be on T1 behind Faker. But yeah, I think especially that Valkyrie kind of hurting Closer, not really able to chip away at Faker's health bar here, and Faker taking every opportunity to try to trade as much as possible.
He's got cookies too, so It's not like he's going to be mana starved or anything like that. Closer, on the other hand, was relatively low. Decides not to complete the back. And we do see Owner heading bottom here. Does not take his red buff just yet, since he already has double buff from taking that away from Raptor. And you mentioned you wanted to see Raptor get aggressive early, but with both of those mobility options taken for clear and closer, they couldn't control their lanes at all. It gave Owner so much power to steal that buff away. 3-buff Raptor here. Can get the scuttle bottom side. And he just has so much control off of the level 1 play. You know, these are the dominoes kind of falling over, the butterfly effect of what can be such a strong start. I mean, the Corki can normally fight back against the Azir. The Renekton is a little bit tougher, but having to take slice and dice, it hurts his ability to clear those first few waves before he gets level 2. Then he, you know, finds himself 12 CS down, and his ally's buff is gone.
Yeah, it can be rough to play any jungler when it feels like you don't really have any prio in any of the lanes. The top lane, as you mentioned, not great. Mid, it's Azir versus Corki, so that is very notoriously anti-fun, not just because the two of them can't be pushed out of lane by one another, but also because there's not a lot of gank assist until Azir hits level 6. And before that, you're kind of just hanging out. Even when Azir does get it, Corki has ways to get out of it as well. So don't see a lot of action here, which means that Raptor's just kind of farming. And that is mostly what we're seeing here in this early game.
Yep. Standard stuff.
Supports have decided they have had enough, and they will leave.
Yeah. They
do not want to be part of the bottom lane farm.
Really important for Dura to come over here and try to put the pressure on the Faker. Keria is matching, so just kind of ends up being a 2v2 lane here. Nothing should come of this. Faker teleports first, so any damage that Closer does to him would be significant, but it looks like that's just going to be the end of that. Kennen has been struggling, by the way, 3 and 12.
20%.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen a lot of blind Kennen, a lot of weird draft spots for Kennen. And it has not really been working out for a lot of teams who are like, oh, I have the answer to X range matchup. It's Kennen, but it doesn't work for the draft. She's a poor performance of it all overall as Keria's going in.
Oh, going in, and Hannah is, well, actually, it was Raptor. He is going to be 100-0. First Blood does go over to T1 just like that, but BNK are fighting back. Owner going to be taken out himself, and that is a trade of junglers. As the collapse did come in afterwards. Meanwhile, Henna is winning this bottom lane at the moment.
Yeah, Guma hits 6, so wants to get away from that turret. Now can continue to put the pressure on. So very close fight there on the Grubs, as Kennen is extremely strong in these early Grub fights because of the ultimate impact he can make. Also with Keria's engaged there, looks really good. But Renekton is also quite difficult to deal with at level 6 on those first fights. So
yeah,
it's up being a trade of kills. Both top laners are actually the ones who get the majority of that gold, so they pick up the kills themselves. But a very decisive call there from T1.
Yeah, I like it. You know, you see the Zyra kind of all alone, no level 6 either, so you know there's not a lot of trade back potential. You just go in, your Rel, Keria makes the call, goes in, and gets a nice play. But you talked about the Renekton. We saw it yesterday as well with Gen G. With the Renekton Nidalee, even more oppressive in what that can do in the early Grub fights.
Yeah, I mean, just look at this. Duro is not fast enough to react to deny Keria's engage. Zeus commits the Maelstrom, but it only hits really the target they collapse on, Raptor. And then Clear just slides in here with his ultimate, does so much damage. There's not enough time for Faker to get over here and try to isolate him. Owner will ultimately come up here and start these Grubs off. Looks like he's just going to get the key one that you want to get. And then Raptor will come over here and try to grab the second 2. That was a nice little timing that Owner found to get in there and get that one away. Faker did get pushed out of lane. Closer actually has a pretty big advantage now and will crash this wave. And so lost farm for Faker in the mid lane. And also that guarantees the second and third Grub go to Raptor. They're not Raptors, but...
Yeah, we have Raptors now. They used to be Wraiths. Times change.
The white.
The what?
The white buff. W-I-G-H-T, white. Those are white. Or the Gromp it is now. Remember that?
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Wow. Guma's just going to be ulted, and he is going to throw an arrow in as well. Duro's going to get pretty low. Henna just has to walk away.
Well, ends up being a big exchange there. Henna's ultimate super useful defensively there, has the cleanse. But T1 will get the dragon as a result of this. So we've got part of the top side objective. We'll get the full bottom here on that dragon. We'll see what comes with the second Drake here. Get a bigger clue on how much this really means. The individual stats of this will be relatively useful. It's not Grasp Azir or anything like that. It's not going to be super tanky. We'll be straight to Hextech. So I feel like we're headed to a Chemtech Soul with how the LCK works.
Yeah, especially in games like these where you don't get too much action outside of the one skirmish. It's like, well, we're just destined for it. Ox, you know, he just had his, wow, okay, Guma's just going to flash that. A lot of respect shown. Ox had his dinner. He was feeling a little sleepy, you know, and just kind of leaning back in the chair a little bit too much. Doesn't realize that the second Drake is about to be killed in the future here. We'll see how it goes. Could get another Infernal. We had Infernal Soul.
Yeah.
And Mountain Soul so far.
Will be not Mountain for this one, at least, as you kind of alluding to. Faker has been able to maintain CS parity here, despite having to take that additional back after his teleport. Poser will take a small lead here. So Raptor's kind of lurking around, constantly threatening, as Duro's like, oh yeah, maybe you guys could catch me with an Emperor's Divide. Then they look for a turn, using vision very well, but T1 are just not going to fall for it. Guma being flashless can be really important for, you know, potentially that second grub fight if he does end up showing up there, because he's very vulnerable to that Renekton engage, to potentially even getting caught by Raptor. And he looks for the root, so that was actually a pretty huge win in the bottom lane while Keria was roaming for Duro to just grab a potential hook, take his flash away. Going for the barrier instead of the cleanse feels pretty good when you consider some of the aspects of this B&K draft, but see if he does end up getting punished for that if he gets rooted.
Yeah.
It's tough to go for cleanse into Nautilus. Doesn't feel too high value.
For sure, for the lane. I mean, it's just kind of the way this game played out. You know, we didn't really see a lot of action down on the bottom side, so it feels like the barrier doesn't mean too much, but it could have in a different game state. Whereas the cleanse, I know a lot of AD carries that would just take cleanse because, well, there's Renekton and Zyra, and you never know, you get hit by a root. It's like, well, need to get out of that.
Yeah, might have been like heal could have maybe helped him avoid that, but you know, it's tricky to say if you're going to get that one to actually go off, because it's a little bit of movement speed, but that's a big hitbox on the dredge line, so yeah. You heal and still get caught, and you're like, oh boy.
I remember heal.
Look,
that back in the day.
Yeah, I mean,
before barrier got buffed, it's like, no, that was the way.
Well, look, barrier is way better than it was when it was ghost for both AD carries on the bottom lane for a while there.
That's true. I mean, the ghost was good, actually. I feel like it, you know me, more action, more kills, the better. It kind of like opened up more action.
Yeah,
whereas
like,
barrier can kind of like deny it sometimes.
Because Zeri wasn't oppressive enough when she was cleaning up kills and
yeah.
We needed to make sure they had that long ghost.
More movement speed.
Yeah.
More mobility. Yeah. Some teams, I mean, T1's bottom lane has used barrier aggressively to trade at level 1. So it can sometimes be like a proactive spell. But generally, yeah, you're just kind of taking it for safety. As we've really slowed down. Feeling the deep lull state coming on. As I say that though, Closer is in the bot lane getting some plates, and T1 do want to respond to this. Keria, he is going to go in with the Magnustorm and flash away. Here comes an arrow. That's also flashed from. So both supports very careful about how far they go.
Very aggressive plate gank from B&K. We'll pick up a plate. That's as much action as they'll allow. As here.
Hey, might be in a little bit of trouble. That one auto into the stun. Very good from Owner. Clear extremely low. Has to flash the Heartbreaker. And now you've got this Kennen who's going AD and is attacking this turret. A mile a minute, gonna take down 2 plates already.
Yep. I did kind of allude to, it felt like it was gonna go AD in this game. They had the Azir, so for damage profile it's pretty good. And it has the Blade of the Rune King actually online now with that extra plate going over, so that's a pretty quick buy here, around 1330. Does end up picking that up. Closer got a plate bottom side and some additional time to farm, but not anything comparable to what the Cannon ended up getting here top side. And if this Renekton stops being relevant early on because he's shut down by just good zoning, by Ash Arrows, by Rel engages, then that could be a big problem here for the side of B&K, as this Kennen is getting very relevant very quickly. It's not the, rush to Leandries. It's not a AP build here where you're like, oh, the Kennen's going to be doing a lot of damage, but he's going to be doing a lot of poking in these fights. Sturo is really kind of on the money with his hook aim today.
Yeah. He just needs a extension buff. He needs to go into the talent tree and just hit the button that says extend hook range by 25%. And if he gets that, I mean, he's set.
True.
Just has to do that.
Yeah.
Find a way to break the game, and you're all going to be fine. We do have this Hextech Drake up, but it doesn't really seem like B&K want to go for that. They want to go for the Heralds.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't really have any control bottom side, so hard to blame them. But the thing is, because they don't have control, T1 can contest this Herald as well as then afterwards, if they win the fight, take the Dragon. So B&K not able to set up a fight because Faker is actually playing Azir. But I think a lot of the time you forget in this meta that if there is an Azir in the game, he could just shut down entire rotations with his ultimate. It's been double AD for so long with not a whole lot of engage, not a lot of utility. Feels like you can kind of just go, well, we'll just walk over to Herald, no one can stop us. Faker actually just being nearby means you can't get in there careful or safely. And actually it's going to be B&K resetting, and T1 will match.
Yeah.
And Zeus is just pushing and pushing.
Yeah, I feel like AD Kennen is definitely one of the most difficult champs that's quote-unquote in the meta. It's not really in the meta. We see a lot of Kennen, but it's almost always AP because your spacing basically has to be perfect. Your range isn't that long on the auto attacks, but obviously it's longer than the Renekton. Especially this matchup can be very difficult. By the way, it is Infernal Soul.
All right.
In this game.
Feeling great for T1 with a 2 Drake lead. And yeah, it's in Zeus' meta.
Yeah, I feel like Zeus in his prime, this is like a perfect champion for him. Because spacing was always one of the things that we always really talked about, that he was so good on Gnaron.
Yeah.
What made him so strong as a Gnar player. Like, this is what you need best as AD Kennen.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think, okay, that's your range extender.
He needs the 25%.
Yeah. Guma executing on the walk away from said range strategy very well there.
Yeah.
Didn't flash this time. But I mean, the Kennen is going to get the whole turret. And when you have a farming Kennen that's actually building AD, it's kind of a problem that he's getting all of this money, and there's just been no answer whatsoever. They gave the Dragon, but also failed to get the Herald. So turret for Flash Mist Hook. That's the cross map.
Yeah. If you remember B&K when they got behind against Hummel Esports, it was a lot of, okay, Raptors just going to farm the whole game, and we're just going to kind of sit back and do not much, which is not B&K's plan generally.
Now the punish may come through.
It's a turret here, though, and Zeus is going to read their minds and just read the game state and say, well, I'm just not going to overstay.
Well, that's really important because they push him back so he can't get the oh, he got that earlier, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the tier 2. That's what he's looking for. He's going to back. He picks up a couple of components.
Like, literally, T1 are playing tennis with B&K. Like, oh, you guys went for the Kennen? He has TP, by the way, and now we're doing the Herald that you guys didn't start earlier. And we have full control over the map. They have a teleport ward for this Kennen as well, so Zeus can just come in. We'll clear the said ward, at least.
Yeah, the issue with AD Kennen is that those teleport flanks, kind of whatever. It's like, oh, well, we got our very fed Kennen there, that's good, but the flank itself is like, well, they ulted us, and he doesn't have any AP.
Closer TPs,
Ow.
and T1 is going to give this up, it looks like.
Yeah, I feel like this is actually good. Like, I feel like Zeus should just stay bot and try to get tier 2.
No, exactly, and that's what he's going to do. You know, even if you TP in with AD Kennen, obviously your ult's not going to do a lot of damage. There still is the utility of it there, but he could have just TP'd in, not as a flank, but just to help fight with his team. But he's not quite a big threat just yet. But he is a big threat to turrets, and T1 kind of cautiously give this one up, get a TP out of closer, and none of these turrets are really killable here right now with this Herald. Unless they get a kill here and clean this one up, they are going to commit to this even though it's at 90% health.
Yeah.
And so they just walk away.
Hey, they got it to half health. And this is good too. I think Owner, you know, there's not much happening. He's able to join up on, and there's nothing that Claire can do.
There's
just
macro.
Yeah.
Just getting out macroed super hard. It's a 2-kill game, but it's a 3,000 gold lead for T1. A lot of that's on this cannon. And you put everything in, you TP to the Herald, but you didn't get the fight. You got the Herald, but then you got half of a turret's HP bar, but lost an inner in return.
Yeah.
Look at the gold graph.
I feel like as B&K, they've been very well known for going into action, even in times where they shouldn't, right? Even from behind, they're like, okay, we're just gonna fight. That's our game plan. That's our unique personality. We're just gonna do this all the time in League of Legends. And they do it from ahead as well, and they create a lot of action. It's very fun generally to cast B&K games. But for some reason, this week, up against Humble IP Esports, they just kind of sat back and died. And here against T1 in game one, they're just kind of, outside of Dura looking for hooks, it's just kind of been, well, we don't have any other good way to engage, so we're just gonna kind of just farm.
Imagine if they had picked Rel first instead of MF. I feel like this game could look very different. And I mean, Duro's hooks were pretty high value early, but now that they've lost a lot of map control and T1 are just running circles around them, it doesn't feel the same way. And you can see this Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. B&K are faster grouped for this. See Closer heading down, doesn't have teleports, so needs to be in the bottom lane. They put Clear in the top lane since he can TP down, assuming, of course, Clear, or rather, Zeus doesn't interrupt him. But Dragon's up in 15. Zeus is getting half of this turret. Can still just go bottom.
Okay, well, Clear is just going to try to get in onto Zeus. There's the Slicing Maelstrom for the stun, and it's enough autos to get the kill. Zeus wins the 1v1. Clear had it. He'd had enough. And he said, I need to pull the trigger, I need to do something, but instead he'll just go down.
And they don't start the Dragon, they give it up. And Clear all-ins to die. And now T1 gets Soul Point. And Duro is hoping that maybe he could catch this cannon in the top lane, maybe put some deep vision up. But Zeus is long gone, miles away.
Yeah. It's really a thinking man's game. This one. 3 kills, 21 minutes, but a very large lead.
Yeah, definitely a thinking emoji moment. As Clear, like, you clear the wave here, you keep the turtle alive for a little bit longer, but Zeus is AD Cannon, and the CC that he has is just going to allow him to AD you more. Like, his ult doesn't do that much damage, but it does stun you. I thought it was a pretty bizarre decision to go in on that as Clear at this game state.
Yeah,
we have Terminus completed now for Zeus as well.
Yeah, he had it in the fight, and now he's got the Giant's Belt, which very interesting. I mean, what is he going like? Dead Man's?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Here,
maybe.
like, and that's just going to be even more oppressive. He's going to have a ton of tanky stats as well.
Yeah, because then he just, I mean, he does a decent amount of damage, but he just becomes this utility engage DPS, like, kind of like Gnar, weirdly enough, where you do a lot of damage, but you actually have the CC to set up team fights. And great in the split push scenario as well. Plus Deadman's just gives you some additional stats for kind of being a brawler. Yeah. To describe Kennen like that, but we'll see what he builds, but that's what the assumption is at this point.
I feel like T1 could have gotten even more value out of this comp by picking something that's not Azir and pick like a side lane champ like a LeBlanc or like a TF in a different meta. Just to, you know, we always used to have that where like 2 guys would group up in the one lane and just push them out and just really make the Renekton totally useless. But turns out Zeus is kind of able to do it by himself. Take a look at that giant stripe in the gold lead, and Duro, he's also had enough. He's like, I got a flash, I have to make action happen, but he just gets flashed away from.
Yeah, well, he did get Guma's flash, so maybe the next time Guma's in hook range, he'll get him. game has been, that's kind of been the game.
Yes.
That's kind of been the game, Valdez, is like,
True.
T1 are pulling B&K around the map and getting bigger cross maps, and then Duro is almost getting people. And that's it. That's been the game. There was the one kill on the initial grub fight that Clear picks up in return after the engage on the Raptor. As all they've been able to secure, that's the one piece of anything that they've had this game, besides the 2 grubs they got in consolation, as all dragons have been T1s. Herald was low value as T1 got an inner, right? I mean, this weirdly enough feels like B&K going back to the round 1 roots, where we were like, oh, this team is looking like they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And right before playoffs, you feel great. Again, a low-stakes match. But T1, on the other hand, bouncing back in terms of their macro plays here, playing their style. AD cannon for Zeus. I mean, how much more Zeus could you get? Faker on the Azir. We're not a huge fan of the Viego in this draft into the Zyra, but you know what? If you could just out-macro the enemy team completely and 3-buff them with the Prio after a level 1, like we saw from T1.
Randuins, okay.
Another tanky item that has utility.
Yeah. I mean, there is still 280 carries on the enemy side, so if eventually, you know, you want to deal with the crit from those 2, you've got an item to do so.
Yeah.
I guess he just wanted something like some tank item. And, it, you know, it also provides the slow. It keeps the Renekton off your back, so there's that. This isn't, you know, a matchup we see all too often. Yeah, I've seen it from time to time, but it's kind of cool to see Zeus in the moment thinking about what items he's going to go for.
Intelligent itemization. B&K can't give this up. I mean, it's... The Azir and the Ashe haven't been in teamfights because teamfights don't exist when B&K are just chasing the shadow of T1 around the map, but eventually we will have a teamfight that's probably going to be right here on this dragon. But if this Infernal Soul goes over and this AD cannon, the Azir with Nashers, the Ashe, 2, maybe 3 items after this fight, has Infernal Soul, and kiss this game goodbye.
I like the way that Zeus plays it as well. You talked about the shadow of T1. This is kind of the way he's playing his side lane as well. Like, he pretends he left, but actually he just, like, zooms in right when they approach the wave, so just even more oppressive. They want to take down this mid-tier 1. Looks like Faker just going to tap that once. Big flank right now from Clear, who is still looking to try to find some kind of usefulness in this game, and he's going to be spotted, so there's no more flank.
Zeus has TP, and Closer cannot stop him. So, looks like maybe they were going to try to look for the flank to come back, or rather just the engage here on the Baron. They're just going to start Baron instead and say, look, 1 dragon versus 1 Baron. We already have 3 dragons. That's going to be what they grab. Nice fadeaway here from Raptor. They're going to TP for this.
I mean, they might be able to get in. The damage, though, is so fast on this one that it's definitely going the way of T1. Let's see what this fight looks like. As a lot of damage goes into Duro, but that's the first reset for the Viego. And look at Clear, he's so far ahead of the team. Down he will go. Keria might pay the price, but it's still the fight for T1, as now you got the TP coming in from the blue team. Faker looking for a bit more, looking for Closer, who does have to flash the sweep, and is even kind of losing the trade, but the big one does get stasis by Faker. Nicely done. Flash comes in as Randuins as well, and he's going to get that kill. T1 finally finding a big fight, and now Henna kind of alone against the Viego, who is quite fed, and he will not win that fight in any universe. Is that just the game, Wolf?
I think that's just the game. I mean, 40 seconds on both 80 carries here for B&K. They have Baron. They have a cannon wave. Instead, it looks like they're just going to dot the rise and cross their T's here a little bit. But that was a pretty disastrous, fight on the Baron for B&K, but they were so behind the 8-ball because T1 made it look like they were going for the dragon and then rushed over very quickly to the Baron with the top prio that they had. I mean, Zeus was starting to put some pressure, it felt like, even on the inhibitor turret. Like, that's where we were at. I mean, they didn't quite get the enter. But look at this engage. Like you said, super split. Like, Duro goes in alone first and just instantly dies. Look at the bullet time, completely absorbed by Owner's transformation. So basically, you have a bullet time doing nothing. You have a Nautilus going in split because the team is so desperate to stop. And then you have a Renekton who's just out of his depth, trying to do anything, something. This ends up being a really nicely timed stasis from Faker. And Zeus goes in, Randuin autos Q coming across. And they end up just settling for the inhibitor for now.
And now he's got Wit's End. This Kennen is just off the wall with how insanely fed he is. Even Faker's got a death cap. I mean, nothing has happened in this game, but it's still a 9,000 gold lead.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of macro happened.
Yeah.
Not a lot of killing until that last Baron fight. Now they have the macro and the killing. And that means big items.
It's a good combo. And, well, they're going to be looking for bot turret and inhibitor, but 5 members, 4 members and a half. You know, Clear's kind of in mid. He's like, oh god, I gotta go top, but I can't deal with the Kennen. I can't deal with this guy alone. Clear already learned that, and that was before the Kennen had 4 items.
Yeah, I feel like Zeus just right-clicked on the turret and then, like, stretched his hands.
Yeah, and now once again, look at Duro. He's just like, I gotta hook something. I'm gonna hook a minion. Obviously not on purpose, but just desperation on the side of BNK. Down will go Keria, but the carries here on the side of T1 are now very fed. Zeus getting 1v2'd. He will trade 1 for 1. And Guma is still alive, as well as Owner getting resets in the back line. Faker gonna go in, get stunned. Does go into the stasis, but I'm not sure that he gets out. Oh, he does! The sweep into the flash! And that is a beautiful way to end the game. T1 clean. Super clean here in this first one, and will take it down up against BNK to take the lead in the series.
Say what you will about Faker's mechanics here.